So the ex ended up giving her a card and some flowers as well. But she didn't realize that it was Valentine's Day. Very suspect. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Jada here, back with another video. So we are going to be diving into 90 Day Fiance. Before the 90 days, this is the tell-all, but this is the very first part of the tell-all. So I just ultimately decided not to really bother with another recap video about the last few episodes leading up to the tell-all because it was just going to take too long. But in short, okay, I'm just going to quickly dive into some updates about the couples, at least, you know, kind of summing up what happened within those episodes. So Statler and Dempsey go on a vacation. They have a good time until they start talking about kids, which we find out Statler doesn't really want any, so that seems to be an issue for Dempsey. But then she has a chat with Statler and says that it's okay, and she ultimately decides that Statler could move in with her when she comes back to London. We move on to Jasmine and Gino. Jasmine finally gets her visa interview after Gino left Panama, and they told her that she has to wait again because there was something happening with her application or something. So she calls Gino crying and screaming, but clearly they got that resolved because she does make it to the States at the end of the day. Now, David and Sheila, they get engaged, and finally Sheila gets her son on board with moving to the US eventually, because that is the plan at the end of the day, it seems. You could see that David's kind of freaking out about being able to afford everything in terms of bringing Sheila and her son over in the first place, and also supporting them considering he's already working 2 jobs and things are still pretty tight for him. So yeah, but they have a pretty emotional goodbye when David leaves, and I gotta say I got a little bit emotional watching it as well. Now, Rasmin and Amanda, now even after she literally said that she wasn't even sure if she could be in a relationship with him at all, this woman wanted to be engaged. Okay, she wanted to be engaged before she left Romania so that she could feel secure about their relationship. But of course Rasmin is like, yeah, hell nah, okay, we're not there yet. And I was like, oh, thank God, honestly, because they really weren't. Regardless of that, Amanda does invite him back to the US for Thanksgiving with her and the family, which I thought was pretty nice because that's kind of what Rasmin was looking for, and I think they might be heading in the right direction, but who knows, really. And when it comes to Amanda, who really knows? Christian and Cleo seem to be going through it for a few episodes. Cleo has a lot of trust issues because Christian keeps talking to random women and inviting them back to Cleo's house for Thanksgiving. Underline Cleo's house. However, Christian keeps trying to play it off as just being friendly, which I don't know if I can entirely believe, but they have a pretty emotional goodbye as well. But yeah, I do think that's hella sketchy that he actually invited a woman that he doesn't really know, and obviously neither does Cleo know, to Cleo's house. It's not even your house. You're inviting a stranger to someone else's house. Really? Anyways, Nicole and Misha, they seem to end their time together on a good note. After Misha met his family, they seem to be pretty accepting of her. It also seems like Nicola was trying to be more romantic and affectionate towards Misha, but she kept complaining almost every chance she got, even though he was finally doing what she was asking him to do. So yeah, Nicola proposes in the most unromantic way, but I'm happy that he actually did it regardless, and I'm proud of him. But he takes her to buy a ring because he wasn't sure what she might like. However, when they go shopping for the ring, he complains about prices and tries to hackle the store owner. So that was pretty interesting. Now, Riley and Violet, oh lord, so they just could not get it together. Almost every time they had a good moment, it was almost always followed up with a bad one. And then it came to the end of Riley's visit to Vietnam, and when Riley decided to come clean finally about trying to get a private investigator to look into Violet, she did not take that so well. So he thought ultimately after her reaction towards that information that it was over, but we find out that she decided to come over to Riley's hotel room because she had a key. So she let herself in and they slept together. Okay, they slept together. And a few weeks after Riley gets back home to the States, Violet tells him that she's pregnant and it's his baby. Yeah. But but she was being hella sketchy about it. She wouldn't take a pregnancy test. He was on medication that would make, this whole ordeal a little harder to believe, because the medication made it harder for him to actually reproduce. So at that reunion, we find out that they're still not together. That's pretty much the sum up of what went down within the last couple of episodes, but now we could finally get into this tell-all. So everyone comes in, they all meet up before they actually start filming, and everyone kind of agrees that the villains of this season are Jasmine and Amanda, but I think only Jasmine was the one that was kind of like aware that everybody was talking crap about her before she was around. So yeah. But this time around, they actually have a live audience. I think this is the first time they had a live audience, but really and truly, the audience didn't really bring anything to the table. It didn't really offer much of anything new. I feel like they was just sitting there watching like the rest of us. Like, they didn't really add anything to it. So I don't know why they were there, but regardless, we're just gonna dive into Jasmine and Gino. So Jasmine's been in the US for only a few days at this point and is already complaining about the weather in Michigan. So of course, Sean, she has to go and dive straight into the whole Jasmine and her ex-boyfriend thing, because that was looking hella weird this season, If y'all didn't find it strange, I don't know what to tell you, but it was weird. Obviously, she would refer to this ex-boyfriend of hers as baby whenever they would have phone calls together and meet up with each other in person. She would always refer to him as baby. And she's talking to him about her and Gino's sex life and how non-existent it is and how it's just bad. And you could clearly tell Gino felt really uncomfortable about that. Very uncomfortable. And Amanda chimes in about not being able to trust Jasmine after that. And of course, Jasmine is quick to say that Gino isn't an angel either. But honestly, let's be real, girl. You are the only one that's been showing some major red flags this entire time. Entire time. I even did a whole video about them if you guys want to check it out in the corner, just about all of their drama, like from the beginning. From the beginning. So Jasmine also reveals that she went to a goodbye dinner that her ex had invited her to, and this was also coincidentally on Valentine's Day, right before she left Panama to be with Gino in the States. So the ex ended up giving her a card and some flowers as well, but she didn't realize that it was Valentine's Day. Very suspect. Now, Christian says that Jasmine was clearly looking for attention in that moment. She turns around with the quickness and said that he's also an attention whore, so he shouldn't be talking. And I was like, I mean, that's fair. That's a fair assessment, Jasmine. She also says that it would be unfair if Gino would ask her to not be friends with her ex anymore or stop talking to him because of how lengthy their relationship has been even before she met Gino. But I'm not understanding how that would be unfair when you, Jasmine, would not be okay with that. I'm sure you'd be uncomfortable with that. So yeah. So apparently there was also they called it in a show a sex video, but I guess you could also call it a sex tape. But apparently there was a sex tape that she did with her ex from about 1 month before Gino came to visit her in Panama, but it actually turned out to be a month before she had even met Gino, period, according to her. That's what she said. That's what she's alleging with her story. And of course, after all of this, they take a break and she goes in on Gino for not having her back during this whole situation, when, let's be real, she's the one that continuously gets caught up in all this questionable stuff. So how could he really defend you, But moving on, Statler and Dempsey. We start off with this hilarious video of Dempsey trying to take a crap literally outside of Dempsey's house, because in Dempsey's camper her toilet wasn't working. So you basically see Statler squatting outside trying to take a dump. So we eventually find out Dempsey is giving up her camper for an RV that she and Statler are going to be moving into together once Statler gets back to England. But Sean, she also brings up Statler and what she said in the show about her having a pretty adventurous sex life, and the time that she had sex in a church during mass comes up. Nicola definitely took offense to that, and understandably so, because it was pretty disrespectful. But Statler's friend Natalie comes on, and that's where things start to go downhill with their back and forth. She confirms that Statler does usually move pretty fast in relationships, so Jasmine does take this time to ask Natalie what she thinks makes Dempsey so special, and Natalie says, "I'm not 100% sure that Dempsey is special, to be honest." And in that moment, I think that's when she chose violence, and that's when Dempsey turned off and decided to say that her opinion was invalid. So I don't know why people were shocked with that reaction, you know, like Dempsey saying that, considering that Natalie literally just said that she thinks Dempsey isn't special. Like, why would you say that? You know, it's just the wording. The wording was terrible. Statler says that Dempsey, you know, is just like that sometimes, which I thought was pretty unfair considering that her friend, okay, Statler's friend, was literally the one that started this ish. She's the one that started everything. She chose violence. So now we also realize that neither Dempsey or Statler know if they want kids or not. And Natalie pretty much ends her time on the tell-all by getting emotional about Statler while Dempsey continues to look really annoyed. Okay. Now, Nicola and Misha. We find out that Nicola was actually coming to visit Misha in the US, and they also find out that she finally got the annulment from the tribunal from her first marriage, so now she and Nicola can move forward with marrying. So Christian chimes in and he says, "Are you really going to leave that up to a bunch of old dudes to decide for you?" And she of course says yes. And me personally, I respect her convictions, but I definitely would not let such a big thing in my life be determined by someone else. Like, I can't fathom that. But everyone is happy for them, it seems. They get the applause and whatnot, and Jasmine turns to Nicola and she says, "Nicola, now you can lose your virginity." And I honestly forgot, to be honest, in that moment that he was actually a 46-year-old virgin, which you could definitely see had a little bit of an effect on how he and Misha interacted with each other during the show while Misha was over in Israel. And you know, it was kind of awkward in a lot of those like moments. But all the other men in the group are telling him that the first couple of times is going to be hard to control yourself and you're probably not going to last that long. And I have actually heard that a lot of times from people in the past who have spoken about it, obviously mostly guys, but yeah, that seems to be the going trend. But they invite Misha's daughters Maria and Savea on to ask them how they feel about Nicola and him becoming their stepdad, and their main concern was not being judged. Statler was first to jump in about Nicola definitely coming into the picture and judging them, and there's definitely going to be a breaking of their relationship with their mom. Now Misha tries to reassure them that she will keep Nicola in check, and Nicola pretty much says that he would trust Misha to make the right decisions for her kids and he's going to stay out of that. But then he also says later on in the conversation that men are the head of the household and Misha would have to follow what he says. So that was a little confusing. Now he said some other things that I didn't really agree with, and I agreed with the man being the head of the household, but not when he said that women were made for men and not the other way around. So that was just weird. But without hesitation, Christian and Statler chimed in, and during the break Misha had to pretty much call up Nicola to see if he was doing okay, and he ultimately just says, "I'm in a relationship with you, Misha, not them," talking about his daughters. And I was like, "Sir, do you realize that children are a package deal?" Like, you are not gonna have Misha without her daughters being involved in some way. That was weird for him to say. But moving on to the last couple that they discuss in this episode or portion of the tell-all. When it comes to Riley and Violet, obviously everybody goes directly to the private investigator thing, and Misha was kind of one of the most vocal ones that I could remember, and she basically said that if someone had done that to her, she wouldn't be able to make it in that relationship. And I agree to some extent. However, if someone is being really sketchy to you and trying to sell you a dream of being in a relationship with you, yeah, you're probably going to do things like that, especially if they're not being honest. You know, it's just, if you've been caught in so many lies, yeah, that's kind of like the last resort. Riley's friend Tiffany comes onto the stage and she asks Violet again why she was still on the app. Okay, because remember in the episodes at one point Tiffany was on the phone because Riley had called her and she was talking to Violet, and she was like, "Hey, I really want to know why, if you wanted Riley off the app so bad, why you're still on it. You know, why are you still on the dating app?" And she never actually answered because she just got upset. And at this tell-all, she decides to explain herself finally. But she basically says that she didn't realize that you have to delete both your account and also the app. And I was like, girl, like, okay. We find out that her account has actually been pretty recently active. I think that's questionable. But the pregnancy, okay, the pregnancy was another major thing that I mentioned. Violet, instead of actually taking the pregnancy test and doing everything that, you know, Riley kind of wanted her to do so that he could feel comfortable with moving forward with the baby and whatnot, Violet had basically said, you know, why don't you just marry me? You have such a dysfunctional relationship with this man. It's weird. Jasmine decides to ask Riley straight up, is like, why are you having unprotected sex with someone you don't trust? Okay, and that's another thing. Why? And he was like, well, this wasn't really planned and I didn't really expect to sleep with her. That was definitely a surprise that she came to my room, blah blah blah, all that stuff, right? And I'm like, Riley, regardless though, you know good and well where it was going, where it was headed, so why didn't you protect yourself, just to be sure? Violet told Riley at the end of the night, like, don't tell nobody about this, keep this a secret, because in Vietnamese culture this is not a norm, okay? This is looked down upon, it's frowned upon, don't tell nobody. So he decided to keep the secret. Riley accused her, of course, of sleeping with another man, and also the dates aren't really making sense. So Jasmine, again, she says, you know, do you think she would really lie to you about a child just to manipulate you? And without hesitation, Riley says yes. And I was like, ooh, yikes. You know, everybody's just like, you know. But Sean ends the episode off by asking if Violet could confirm that she is indeed pregnant and if the child is indeed Riley's. And that's kind of where the episode stops, and I guess we get that response in part 2. But in this next part of the tell-all the other couples are on the hot seat. I'm really excited to see, honestly, what goes down with everybody okay, finally getting to talk to the couples in person. I really want to hear what they have to say about Razvan and Amanda, because Amanda, Jasmine was in the hot seat in this one. But y'all let me know your thoughts on this first part of the tell-all down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.